Good Mom and Monday.
You're here at the Mistaken Mama podcast. I'm Kaylee.
And I'm Mandee.
And we are your hosts. This week on the podcast, we're going to be talking about Only for Me. It's based on a book. We actually did this topic the last time that we ran this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to be kind of discussing a little bit about teaching our kids about bodily autonomy and their privacy and things like that. We actually do have the book here that this is based off of that we can show you. But first, let's do our wins, fails, books. I've got a fail for you.
Let's hear your fail. Let's start
Okay.
bad and end good.
Yeah, there we go. So my husband works a weird 8-day work schedule. 2 days followed immediately by 2 nights, then 4 days off, and then it repeats. So last night was his last night shift. Okay. So he had a night shift the night prior, was asleep for most of the day. We saw him for about 45 minutes, and then he had to leave to go to the night shift again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on the second night shift, I allow the kids to sleep in the bed and do a slumber party.
Okay.
Right? That's probably not going to be happening.
Oh no.
Next week. We'll see.
Okay. Tune in.
Yeah, tune in. We'll see. But Ellie had taken and Ellie's my youngest. She's 18-ish months old, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
And she took a nap right around 4:00, which for her is questionable at best.
Fair.
On if she's going to go to sleep later.
Fair.
Apparently for yesterday, the answer to that was not until midnight. So the other two fell asleep pretty quickly in the room. I think Damon, my middle child, who's 3, fell asleep pretty quick.
Okay.
Anna had struggled because Ellie was just chatting away, just jibber-jabbering, just had everything to say.
Mm-hmm.
And then she would lay sideways, and then she'd end up kicking Anna, and then Anna would be like, Ellie, move. And then Ellie would kick, and she'd get Anna's blanket on her, and then she'd freak out because she hates blankets on her, and then she'd kick the blankets off, and it was just it was chaos with Ellie. And I'm trying to sleep. And I'm like, girlfriend, go to sleep. So I was getting little bits of sleep here and there.
Which is almost worse.
Right?
You don't really hit that REM.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then, so she finally falls asleep around midnight-ish at around 1:30. So really not that long later.
Oh, no.
Damon wakes up. And he just sits up and he goes, Mama. I'm like, what? And he starts saying something that makes no sense. And I'm not sure if it made no sense because he made no sense or if I was just not comprehending what he was saying or possibly a mixture of both.
Probably a combo.
Yeah.
I had to guess.
And I'm like, just go back to sleep. Then I tried I was just just go back to sleep. And I started trying to soothe him down. And he's like, I'm hot. So I'm like, okay, help him take off his socks and help him take off his sweats. And he just was wearing the diaper because he still wears a diaper.
Oh, right. Yeah.
He's not quite, I don't know. It's just not quite there yet.
Yeah, fair.
And so he's he lays down and he's like, I am still hot. I'm like, I agree. It's pretty hot in here with all of the bodies.
Mm-hmm. All that body heat.
He's like, Mama, I want to sleep in my bed. It's like, okay. I help him get to his bed with his pillow and all of that good stuff and whatever. He lays down. And he's like, can I watch a show? I'm like, fine, whatever. Turn the timer on. Have him watch. I think it was Mickey Mouse for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I turned the timer on for 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I was like, just in case he ends up waking up again, he can kind of drift himself back off to sleep.
Right, fair.
He didn't do that, though. He instead sat up and watched the TV for that entire duration. And then at 4:30, when the TV shut off, he yells from his room, Mom, my show! I get up and I'm half asleep still. And at this point, Ellie had woken up, and she wanted milk. And so she was like, a milk. And I would be like, okay. She'd go, please. I'm like, I'm coming. Please, I'm coming. Just let me roll over.
Right.
Get to you. Now. I'm coming. Just 2 seconds. I gotta pull up my shirt. Just stop.
You're right.
Melt. Oh my God. So then I was awake and nursing, and trying to whatever. And so I had eventually fallen back asleep. And then that's when he woke up and was like, Mom, my show, whatever. So I get up. Thankfully, Ellie is asleep and had rolled over. And so she wasn't like latched on anymore.
Right.
I get up, I go in there. And he's laying down or whatever. And I was like, maybe he woke up, whatever. So I turn it back on. Then I go back into my room, sit on the bed. And I'm like, let me check our cameras. Let me just check. So I check. And he had been sitting up and like talking to Mickey Mouse. Like, you know how Mickey Mouse will like ask questions?
Yes.
Talking to Mickey Mouse for the entire time. And I was like, I did not turn this TV on so that you could be up all night.
Oh, no.
I turned it on because you do better with sound.
Right.
Like, oh my God. And so I go back in there and I was like, I'm turning this TV off because you have been up for the past 3 hours. It is 4:30 in the morning. You have been up since 1:30. No.
You need to sleep.
I turn off the TV. He starts crying and I was like, okay, do you want to sleep in here or would you like to come back into my room? He goes, Mama room. I was like, okay, let's go. So I put him back in our room at the bed where he's been, because Anna lays in Thomas's spot.
Okay.
I lay in mine. Ellie sleeps in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And then Damon would be like on the end of the bed, horizontal, with his head where like Anna's pointing.
Oh, okay.
Feet.
Yeah.
Because I can't have him on the other side because then my feet are on him.
Right.
Anna is short enough still so that works.
Okay,
for
that
right
makes
now.
sense. Yeah.
And I had the TV on because I'm somebody who I sleep better with a little bit of sound, but we have the dimness about as dim as you can get.
Right.
Without it being like a black screen.
Yeah.
And on like 2 or 3 for volume.
Yeah.
So he's like, Mom, I don't like this show. I'm like, I do not care.
That's not why it's on.
Roll over and go to sleep. I'm like, I was just on like YouTube and weird random stuff.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure at some point in the night, and it ended up being like somebody was repainting squishies. And I was like, whatever, I don't care.
Right.
Sometimes it's science video, sometimes it's art, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's just noise.
Just sound.
Go to sleep. He finally goes to sleep. Thomas then gets home like an hour and a half later. He thankfully takes Ellie, who has then waken up again. Mm-hmm. She woke up around 5:30 and was up. Thomas doesn't get off till 6:30, and then he gets home around 7. So when he got home around 7,
she was still up.
She was up.
Oh man.
He like came into the room super quietly. She goes, "You're back," and he's like, "Shh." She's like, "You're back." He's like, "Do you want breakfast?" And she's like, "Uh-huh." Just super loud. And he's like, "Oh my God, come on." He reaches over, grabs her, and then I'm like half waking up. He goes, "No, go back to sleep." Anna wakes up like 15 minutes later, taps me. "Mom, can I have breakfast?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Okay, I'll meet you out there." Okay. Thankfully, Thomas just handled it.
Right.
But like, so my fail is I'm exhausted. I guess related when my husband got Father of the Year award from me last night because I could not. And I'm really thankful that normally he would go to sleep after working a 12-hour night shift. He just took the kids, no questions asked.
Yeah.
And then in the morning, he was just like, "Hey, beautiful, you okay?" He said he looked on the camera and he saw that some of the chaos. And so.
Fun.
My win, my husband is very supportive. My fail, my children
were not supportive at all to your sleep schedule.
Literally.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so there's my psycho ramble of my night last night.
Ugh.
Oh, yeah, I'm tired.
Sounds like a rough one. That's the worst when just nothing goes right.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's a point where you're just like, am I just up? Am I awake?
I know.
Am I awake for the day?
Should I just like find something to do?
Mm-hmm. I remember I had a night like that not too long ago, and I just finally just had enough. I think it was only 4 a.m, but I had enough. And so I got up and Michael was like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm just up."
Yeah.
If the kids wake up, I'll come grab them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Those are a struggle.
Yep. What about you?
Well,
do you have any wins, fails for
I
me?
have a fail.
Does it involve this morning?
No, but it could.
Okay.
Like
I'm
it for a
interested.
while this morning.
Oh yeah, I walked in and they were yelling.
Yeah. Meltdown. I didn't even tell you what it was about. The meltdown
From this morning?
Yeah, that you walked into was that he couldn't button his jacket by himself.
Okay. Yep. Sounds
And
like a 3-year-old.
I said, "Would you like some help?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Okay. Well, can I just show you how to do it?" And he said, "Yeah." So I showed him how. And then he got mad at me
because you did it.
because I did it. And then he proceeded to sit there for 5 minutes trying to figure it out, just like, and I was like, "I can help you." And he was like, "Okay." And then so I buttoned it up, and then he proceeded to throw himself on the floor.
That was Anna for me. Damon is very good about asking for help and being accepting of that help in most instances, but Anna was the one that did that for me. Yeah. She still kind of does.
Yeah. Must be a firstborn thing.
Must be.
Anyway, my real fail is I've mentioned that Snow has health stuff. I don't know if you saw her this morning.
I'm probably glimpse, but
Okay.
not like enough to register. I mean, I'm not registering half of anything right now. So.
Fair. So she has she used to have skin issues all the time when she was little. Then
right,
she
you guys got into the
stopped. Yeah. And then you were here.
I was here when you made the call to the vet.
When I made the call. So then we got in, and it was a lot worse than we thought.
Oh.
So her whole back is shaved, like from the mid back down to her butt.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Is shaved, and she has 2 very large wounds on the sides of her back.
Oh.
They think they're hot spots.
I don't know what that is.
Which is kind of just like an irritated spot that then gets like, a lot of times it's they're biting it and then it gets more moisture and it gets more moisture, and because it's under the fur it gets hot and then it turns into a festering wound.
Okay. Okay. Yep, sure.
However, she's having a bunch of thyroid issues. She's having a bunch of endocrine issues. They think she might be diabetic. So her healing is just not what it used to be. And so it got just really bad really fast.
She's having a heyday.
Yeah.
Poor Snow, old lady.
Yeah, I feel so bad for her. But she's on a spray and then she's taking oral antibiotics. And she's already doing better. It's been almost like 4 or 5 days. I think.
Yes.
I think we recorded on
that
Tuesday.
Calendar is not correct,
No,
so
it's not.
I'm not sure.
I think we recorded on a Tuesday. Then I got her in on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
I think is
and
how that went.
Today is now Sunday.
And today is Sunday, so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's 5 days she's been on this antibiotic. She's doing better, but it was pretty gnarly. Pretty gnarly.
Poor girl.
Yeah, that's my fail. Just because she just keeps having more and more stuff, and let me tell you, these things are not cheap.
That's one reason why I don't know if I ever really want pets again.
It's definitely a commitment.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes I have, 6 kids and not 2 because these animals test me just as much as the kids do. But yeah, she's getting better, so that's good. But it's been a process going through all these health issues with her.
And then it's just one thing after another.
Yes. My win. Today after we record and Michael gets back, my mom's taking the kids for a few hours.
Yay.
So we're just going to get some food, and then I think we're going to come back home and try to find a movie here. Because we were going to go to a movie, like actually find a movie to go to. And I said, I just don't want to.
Yeah.
I just want to get some food and come home.
Like, I just want to be cozy.
I just want to be cozy at home without kids screaming at me.
Now I want just like Fish Express and sit on the couch and watch a movie.
Right? Like something easy. I just want to go get a quick bite and then come back.
What I want to eat and what I'm probably actually going to eat are 2 very different things. Because I really want my like homemade shrimp Alfredo with breadsticks.
That does sound good.
It's not the shrimp Alfredo part that's the problem. It's the 3 hours worth of making homemade breadsticks.
Right.
Because I'm an overachiever and I require doing things myself.
Right. And we don't
turns out, but like.
Right. But we also don't have a good place here that you can just go quickly.
Right.
Like, we don't have an Olive Garden that close that you could just go grab.
I will say my breadsticks, the way that I make them, are actually pretty similar to, at least in like, I would say relatively close to texture and flavor, just like with obviously better ingredients, to like the Little Caesars ones.
Oh, okay. I like
Which
those.
I really like Little Caesars breadsticks.
I do
Call
too.
me cheap as shit if you want.
No,
I
do
don't
too.
care.
I guess you could technically go there and grab some breadsticks.
I could. But I almost feel like that'd be kind of cheating. Especially when I have a recipe that is pretty dang similar. I used to work at Little Caesars too, so I know how it's made and I know that mine's similar.
Right. But you're tired.
But I'm so tired. I told Thomas, I was like, it's going to depend on how much you sleep after I get home today. Because like he said, he still worked a night shift last night, so he still needs to sleep at some point.
Yeah.
It's like, it'll depend. I was like, if you wake up at a decent time and it gives me enough time to make breadsticks, maybe I'll make some breadsticks today.
Yeah.
If not, it's going to be tomorrow.
Right. Fair.
Yeah.
Fair. Books? One book.
Yep. What we
won. Book we're talking about today.
Book. We can just skip books.
Yeah.
This book.
Yeah. Here, let me grab it.
Okay. I was like, who's gonna grab that? I don't think either of us want to.
Nope. All right.
This is the book that we are kind of referencing today. I think I had originally found this on TikTok or something like that. It's called Only for Me by
Michelle Derrig. Oh, written by Michelle Derrig, illustrated by Nicole Mackenzie.
And this book is, if you're like, this is a very intentional read. Anna has asked my mom to read this to her before, and then my mom afterwards was like, "You did not warn me about this book."
Oops.
It talks very much about like, this is my mouth, these are my hands, but then it also talks about, like this page here that I just happened to open up to is talking about how, no one can touch or make me show, and if they try, I must say no. No one's to look or take a photo. The answer is still no, 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 no. And it's talking about like your private parts.
Right. Because it even describes, I think it talks about a penis and a vulva.
It does. I'm not sure if it uses those words explicitly.
I thought it did.
I can't remember. I haven't read this book in a minute.
Yeah. Girls have a vulva and a vagina. Boys have a penis and testicles. And it has like the little dolls to like represent. So it's not, there's nothing like,
it's not
vulgar,
kids.
Detailed. Yeah. It's very kid friendly.
It is very kid friendly. And it's very much, it allows the kids to learn about it anatomically without it, like you're not reading an anatomy book.
Right. Yeah.
And I think it, personally, one thing that I really like about this is that it describes it as it not being a bad thing, but that nobody else needs to be looking, seeing, touching, whatever. Which I think is the most important aspect of what this is trying to teach. And I think this book does it very, very well.
Yeah. Maverick, we've always been very like, when he was little, if he would touch his penis, like, that's your penis, we don't touch that, or, it's only when we're cleaning it or when we're taking a shower or whatever, but nobody else needs to touch it and whatever. And he's totally good with that. He's just now realizing his sister does not have a penis. Yeah. So he's just now recognizing that. And I remember I was changing her diaper probably a week ago, and he normally just doesn't even pay attention or anything, but he just happened to come over and he said, "Is that a butt?"
Because that's funny.
Yeah. And I said, "No, that's
really
not a
funny.
butt." And I know the proper term for it is vulva, but I've always said vagina, so I just stick with vagina. So that's what I've been telling him. And I'm like, "No, that's sister's parts, and hers is called a vagina." And he goes, "But I don't have a vagina." And I said, "I know, because you're a boy." And he's like, "Yeah, but what do you have, mama?" And I said, "Well, I'm a girl, so I have a vagina too." And he says, "And daddy has a penis." And I said, "Yeah, because daddy's a boy too." And he goes, "Okay." And he was just like, "I guess." It was very cute.
And for you have the boy first. For me, I had the girl first.
Right.
And we do use vulva.
Right.
I worked so hard to switch
I know
the words in my head because my default is even
Still vagina. Yeah.
And I have to correct it. And even Anna has corrected me before.
Yeah.
Because I think I said it. I think I said it once too. Same to Damon about Ellie.
Right.
And Anna was like, I thought it was a vulva. And I was like, you know what? Actually, you're right. The vagina's the inside, vulva's the outside.
Right. Right.
And she's like, and that was when it clicked to her that there's an inside.
Oh God.
Because I had never like distinguished that before.
Yeah.
And then I was like, yeah.
Yep.
There's an inside.
That's a topic. These topics are very hard to talk about with your kids because you have to do it in such a age appropriate manner. You don't want to scare them, but you also want them to know that like it's theirs and it's not for anybody else.
Yeah.
And you also want them to know that it's not like a yucky thing because you don't want them to feel bad about their bodies.
Yeah.
It's very hard. I'm learning.
It is. And for some reason, like, so Damon is a boy, obviously. And he has different parts. Anna recognized very, very early on, right around like 2.5, when she was learning about her own body, that Damon's body did not look like hers.
Right.
And I remember the first time that I was changing his diaper in front of her, he was like literally fresh out the womb.
Yeah.
And she's like, Mom, what's that? 2.5, 3 years old, give or take, whatever. And I was like, that's Damon's penis. And so, you know, she's always known.
Right.
And then now whenever, and she doesn't ask this anymore because she's a lot older now, but for a while there, she'd be like, what does so-and-so have? And I'd be like, oh, are they a boy or are they a girl?
Right.
And I know that in today's society, there's going to be people being like, that question is not always going to give the answer that you think.
Right.
I get that.
Right.
But at this stage, I am determined to be teaching the biological aspect of it. And differences are something that can come up if the need to explain it arises.
Right.
As of right now, that's not something that needs to be explained. And so we are just basing it off of biological, like typical how that works. Okay?
Yeah.
Just to disclaimer there, I'm not opposed to explaining other circumstances, but this is what we're doing right now.
Right.
And Damon, however, does not fully understand that like his parts are private.
Oh, yeah.
He will still pull his pants down in front of people.
Yeah, Maverick is still kind of like that too. I don't know if that's a boy thing.
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
I know that because we did the potty training in the kitchen, that could hold, you know, because I now say like, oh, we don't need to be pulling our pants down in front of other people, whereas he was literally naked in front of other people for weeks at a time. So I think it's just something that's going to be an adjustment.
Yeah. But
at the dinner table, he pulled his pants down and he's like, I gotta go potty. And I'm like, oh, don't. My mom was over and I wasn't paying attention. I was doing something else and she just so happened to turn and saw his pants were down and she's like, whoa, hold on.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God. Have him pull his pants up, get him into the bathroom. But so he doesn't understand like the privacy aspect of that quite yet.
And it's hard because they're so innocent. They're innocently doing it. They're not, there's nothing meant by it except it's just their body. And honestly, they probably love their bodies more than we love our bodies. Like they're just being kids. And it's a toughie.
It is so hard.
Have you had to deal with, I don't know how to put this out here.
Just do the best you can, I guess.
Have you had to deal with the anatomy of a male and the certain things that happen with a male? I hate to call it a boner because it's my son.
Oh. I personally have had to deal with it, but I haven't had to explain it to the kids, if that's what you're talking about.
Well, I just recently ran into an instance with Maverick. He's got them all the time as a kid. You just do. It's essentially, scientifically, it's just extra blood flow.
Yeah.
And he just never really says anything about it. Well, the other day he was watching a TV show in my room, and I went back there and his eyes got all wide and I was like, what? And he stood up and he started to pull down his pants. And I said, oh, do you need to go potty? And he goes, no. And I said, well, what are you doing? And he whips it out. And I was like, what? You need to pull your pants up. Like, we don't do that unless you need to go potty. And he's like, Mom, there's something in my penis. And I said, there's something in your penis. I said, what are you talking about? And he goes,
scared that he'd like
yeah,
inserted something.
Exactly. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, it's not squishy. There's something in my penis. And I was like, oh, all right. I was like, here's one of those parenting moments where what I say can make or break this.
Oh, yeah.
And so at first my mind went to saying, well, it's just extra blood in your penis. And I was like, that's going to freak him out. So I went against that. So then I just said, sometimes that happens to your body. Sometimes your penis will just get hard and it doesn't mean anything bad. It just happens. It doesn't, and then it'll go away after a while. And then I said, if you would like to talk to somebody about this, your dad would be a great person to talk to because he has a penis too. And then when Michael got home, Michael talked to him. I don't really know the ins and outs of what he said. He said he didn't really say much. He basically said what I said. But yeah, that was interesting.
I have a circumstance that was somewhat related. I'll explain. It was actually something Anna observed. And I think she had noticed at one point in time when I changed his diaper, like his penis was sticking up or whatever. And I just kind of bent it back down and whatever. And I didn't acknowledge it at all. Right. And she's like, I think she had asked, she's like, why is it sometimes up and sometimes down? I was like, it just is. I was like, sometimes it is, sometimes it is. She's like, is it kind of like how sometimes your boobs poke out and sometimes they don't? That's a good way to put it, though. I was like, actually, yeah. I was like, that's pretty similar. Yeah. I was like, sometimes it can be because it's cold. Sometimes it can be because like the diaper rubbed on it too much. And, in the case of boobs, it'd be like my shirt or my bra rubbed on it too much. I was like, so yeah. I was like, that they're pretty similar. Yeah. And that was like a year ago. Honestly, I forgot about it until you said it. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. I guess that has happened one time.
It's hard when it's I'm female, he's male. And so I can only explain it to him the best way I know how. And that's why I try to deflect those questions to Michael because he knows more than I know about that.
See, that's not how it is in my house. Because Thomas, when questions like that come up and I'm like, that'd be a better thing to ask your dad, Thomas goes, what do I say? And I'm like, sir.
Oh man. I just tell Michael, I'm like, you tell him whatever you like. Explain it to him. I don't know how to explain it to him.
I've determined that at least for my husband, who doesn't always think about the things that he's saying before he says them, isn't always the best because he tends to say things in either ways that can be like misconstrued and be scary or uncomfortable, or he'll just explain it wrong, and then I'm like, oh my god.
Right. Yeah, because I asked Michael, I almost said it's because there's extra blood in your penis. And he was like, I'm really glad you didn't. Because knowing Maverick, he would probably think that now my penis is full of blood, which is factual, but that would probably freak him out. So,
and see, that's realistically probably what I would have said. Yeah. But see, that's where you and I have some slight differences where I'm going to go with the anatomy and I'd be like, well, how we have like the veins in our hands and in our arms and stuff, we have those in different parts of our body too. And like, the kids have seen veins in my boobs and stuff. Right. And before anybody's like, why do the kids see in your boobs? I breastfeed in front of my kids. Yeah. It is what it is. Yeah. And so whatever, boobs are not sexualized in our house. Granted, I'm not just like whipping them out and shaking them or anything.
Right. You're not being sexual with them.
No. Yeah. They are put away unless I am nursing. Yeah. But I would probably have said something along the lines of like, well, blood travels through it. And so, if there's more in there than there normally is, it's going to be harder. Right. Probably what I would have said.
Yeah. Maverick doesn't do good with blood. He really freaks out. Then. And so I just, at this stage, I was like, I'm just going to say, sometimes your body does that.
And that's where what to say to your kid is not only age dependent, but also gender dependent.
Dependent?
Dependent. Yeah. and maturity dependent.
Right. Exactly.
Because, at 3 years old, I feel like Anna was more ready to hear like the actual reason behind something. Damon, no.
Right.
They are on wildly different maturity levels.
Yeah.
Granted, they are different ages, but I'm thinking back to Anna at the same age.
Mm-hmm.
Wildly more mature.
Yeah.
Maybe that's her being a girl.
I was going to say, I
know.
think girls tend to be, but...
I think so.
Yeah.
And I mean, we'll see kind of like, at 6 years old, is he going to be the same maturity level that Anna is now? And, what's that going to look like?
Yeah.
And so that would change the answers to my questions. Damon tends to be very like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Whenever I give him an answer, he doesn't really question things.
Right.
Sometimes he'll say, well, why?
Yeah.
And I'll just be like, and that's when I would probably just be like, your body just does.
Yep. Just happens.
It just is.
And I think that's why sometimes these conversations are uncomfortable, is because society has sexualized our bodies so much that now when we're talking innocently to kids, I don't know about you, but I sometimes am like, oh God, am I like sexualizing my kid by talking about this? When I'm not. I'm just telling them about their bodies. They're asking questions. Things are coming up and they need to know what these things are.
Yeah.
I also don't want to be a household that's like, oh, we don't talk about that.
Yes.
Because then that's going to make them seek answers elsewhere that I don't know what answers they're getting. I don't know what information's being spread. And
exactly.
So I'd rather have the uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah. That's what I was just about to say, is I would rather have the uncomfortable conversation and have the information come from me and me knowing that I'm okay with the information that they have. Because if I give them a half-ass answer, that's just like, oh, we don't need to talk about that right now. Or it just is.
Yeah. Right.
And leaving it like that, they're going to question it and they're going to go try to seek out the answer from somebody else. Like
exactly.
You said.
Yeah.
Thankfully, my kids are, and I mean, I say thankfully, this almost kind of sounds like I'm like sheltering them.
Right.
To say thankfully my kids are homeschooled, so they can't really go ask. And by homeschooled, I guess in Anna's case, it's just not just going to go ask her friend on the playground, because that isn't an opportunity.
Right.
Because the only time she ever sees her classmates is in Zoom twice a day.
Yeah.
And she can't just go and ask them during live class.
Right. I think the teacher would step in at that point.
Yeah. So in this instance, like, she's, homeschooled-ish.
Yeah.
So that she doesn't have that. And so she has like you or my mom.
Right.
But I know both of you would be like, go talk to your mom about that.
Deflect to your mother.
Exactly. Even Thomas deflects most things to me. Even if it's something that he could easily answer, he's like, I don't know what Kaylee's opinion is on this. So go ask your mom.
Right.
Run along.
I remember when we first had Maverick and he first was getting curious. He was little, and I do it to Quincy now.
Do you mean when you first had Quincy?
When we first had Maverick.
Okay.
And
are you talking about Michael?
Yes.
Okay. For some reason, the way you worded it, I thought you were like, when we first had Quincy and you were like, he was really curious. For some reason, that made me think you were talking about Maverick being curious.
Oh, no.
I'm caught up now.
When we first had Maverick, and Maverick was really curious about like his parts, even when he was very, very little, I would always call them a penis. I would always say like, that's your penis. And Michael.
I'm going to pause you for just a second. You said when we first had Maverick.
Yes.
And he was curious about his parts. Do you understand how that is making me very confused? When you first had Maverick, aka newborn Maverick.
Yes.
Newborn Maverick can't be curious about his body. Do you see where I was getting confused?
Oh, yes. Well,
I understand
he
what
was
you're
pretty
saying.
Curious pretty early on. A couple months in.
I completely understand what you're saying.
Okay.
I was just not registering.
Things weren't happening. Okay. I was like, am I scrambling my words?
No. I wanted you to understand what my brain was doing, because I was like.
Yes. Now I get it. Maybe I shouldn't say when we first had Maverick.
I get what you mean, though.
Right. I'll say
when Maverick was old enough to be curious at whatever point in his life that was. This is what I did.
Yes. When Maverick was little. And no, it's okay. I'm just trying to word it better now.
I mean, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, you get it now. Yeah.
But
I get how you saw.
It was like that sound when you have the phone and it's just like.
Yes.
That's what was going on in my brain. And I'm just like, I cannot compute what you're saying to me right now.
I do that far too often, so I totally get it.
Sleep. I didn't understand what Thomas was saying this morning either when he was like, I changed diapers and I got breakfast. I'm like, you changed breakfast? What are we talking about? So I'm so sorry.
I do that to Michael all the time. I'll literally look at him. I'm like, did you just speak English or words, or am I having the hard time? And he'll repeat it and I'm like, yeah, I did not compute that the first time you said that.
Yeah. So that was me.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
You're fine. You're fine. I understand.
That was
anyway,
kind of funny.
when Maverick was little and first started noticing his parts,
Yes.
I, from the very get-go, would say, "That's your penis," even if he wasn't saying words or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I would just say, "Yep, that's your penis," and then I would close the diaper or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started doing that, Michael would be like, "Why are you doing that? Like, why are you calling it a penis? Why, like, don't do that." Like, he was like weirded out by it, and I had to explain to him, like, you know, what if something happens to him? You know, that's the dark side of it. What if something happens to him and he doesn't know that that's called a penis or that's whatever, you know, people
doesn't know how to tell the adult.
Yeah, people could easily take advantage of that. On the not so serious side, I think that you should know what your body parts are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just like we teach little kids, like, this is your nose, these are your eyes. Like, that's another part of them. Are we just supposed to skip that and be like, yeah, we don't talk about that? You know?
I completely agree.
And I'm not going to give it a little, like, cutesy name, because then when they go tell grandma that whoever touched my cookie, they're going to be like...
The cookie one was in my head, too.
Yeah. They're going to be like, oh, okay, they touched your cookie. You know, it's fine. Maybe tell them, you know, that's your cookie next time.
Yeah.
Wouldn't think anything of it. And then you come to realize that by cookie they meant penis or they meant vagina. Like, then you realize, oh, wow, okay, that's a million times more serious than what I thought.
And the kids truly do use those words. I worked in a daycare for like 6 months. I didn't work there for very long, but I worked there long enough to know that the preschoolers who could speak used the cutesy names.
Right.
And the kids that didn't were the ones that were like, all the other teachers were telling them that we don't call it that here.
Right.
And that was one reason why I didn't like working there.
Yeah.
Because it was like, I get that the kid shouldn't be talking about this here.
Right.
But trying to trump the parents' decision to use anatomical names for it. And being like, no, we don't call it that or whatever. Yeah. And like, you're letting Susie talk about it because she's using a cutesy name, but you're not going to let Dom, I don't know.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Same.
The only other name that we will allow is privates.
Yeah.
But he knows that that's his penis. But, you know, if we're out in public and whatever and we don't necessarily want to say the word penis because we just don't want to, we say, no, those are your privates. Like, we don't talk about that. We don't do that right now. And then sometimes he'll ask, what are my privates? And then I'll say it because, you know, for his sake. But
I will say the one cutesy word we use, it's not really cutesy because everybody knows what you're talking about. We say balls instead of testes. Yeah. I mean, we use both interchangeably. I do use both.
We tend to say balls too.
Yeah, but at least that's something that if a boy were to say someone touched my balls, you're going to immediately be like, which ones?
Right. Exactly.
If a girl said so-and-so touched my cookie, you're not going to think twice that they're not talking about a legitimate cookie.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like balls is the one that you can kind of...
Because, I mean, that's what everybody uses anyways. Yeah. You know, no adult is calling their thing a cookie. Right. I mean,
maybe they are, but that's another topic.
Yeah. They're usually when they're going to call it that, there's a lot more context. Yeah. But in cases where it's really important, I definitely don't. Right. Like, the cutesy words are not being used.
No. Yeah, it's... And then for boobs, Maverick just says boobs.
We say boobs.
Yeah. And he always asks, he says, do I have milk in my boobs? And I'm like, nope, you don't.
Yeah. Damon the other day, it was really funny. It was kind of like uncomfortable at the same time, but it was funny. My mom was over. I don't remember what we were doing. But he goes, you know something cool? She's like, what? My mom's got milk in her boobs and you don't. And she was like, yep, you're right. Funny. I do not anymore. And he's like, just confident in his answer. And it's like, you're not wrong. But okay.
That's funny.
Because obviously when they were little, sometimes they like would ask her. Right. So they'd be like, oh, I see boobs. Milk.
Right. Is there milk in those?
I don't have any. We're good. Go see your mom for that.
Yep. Yeah. That's like Maverick's learning out on the farm because Val just had a bunch of lambs. And so he sees them nursing on their mom. And so he's learning more and more that like all animals produce some kind of a milk.
Yeah.
Well, mammals.
Yeah.
The animals that he sees on the farm.
Yes.
Yeah. And he's just very like, okay, you know, he's very whatever about it. We have one book. I think it's a Dr. Seuss book. It's about like them going under the sea, all the different levels of the sea or whatever, but they get to like the manatees, and it's the manatee calf nursing on the manatee mother. And when he was little, he would always be like mama.
Aww,
and so he totally gets that. And yeah, he gets it that he doesn't have milk in his boobs either.
Yeah. And I think that things like that are really important, you know, understanding the differences between, you know, a female body and a male body. And knowing that like everybody's body is different, but we all on a base level function very similarly.
Right.
And I think those things are important to be able to distinguish a lot of differences, and it kind of, you know, questions later on.
Yeah.
Like let's say when Maverick, if you guys ever decide to have another baby, then he's going to ask how the baby get in your belly.
Right.
And knowing what to say, or at least on some level, obviously his age is going to be completely dependent on what you say. Right. Because I think he may have been a bit too young with Quincy, wasn't he?
Yeah, he never asked me.
Yeah.
She was there, and then she wasn't in there.
Yep.
And that's all he knew.
Yeah. Whereas when I was pregnant with Ellie, Anna would ask me. She'd be like, well, how did baby get in there?
Yeah.
And my response, because she was 4? Question mark?
Yeah.
I think right around 4-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah. My answer for her at that time was, well, you know, boy bodies are different than girl bodies. Girl bodies can in a lot of cases have babies in there. I was like, the boy bodies put the babies in there. And she's like, well, how? It's like, well, they do a very special dance that only grown-ups are allowed to do.
Right.
And we didn't ever specify the penis and vagina part. Some of those questions have started to come up recently.
Yeah. And
the way that I have decided to explain it is, well, you know how we don't allow other people to see those parts? I was like, you know, mommies and daddies sometimes do that. I was like, but that is only for mommies and daddies, only for grown-ups.
Yeah.
And those are the parts that make the baby. That's why the baby comes out of those parts.
Right.
And I've never explained insertion. I was like, it just has to do with those parts.
Yeah.
And she's just like, okay.
Right. I think people forget that you don't just have to give one answer and that's your forever answer.
No.
It can change as the child gets older, more mature.
You omit certain information now, but you can backfill later.
Right. I'm not going to describe having sexual intercourse with my 3-year-old.
No.
But
I can explain
a baby dance between a mom and a dad. You know, that's totally acceptable. Yep. They might kind of look at you a little weird, like, that's kind of weird. Yeah, but, that's weird. You know, but as they get older, more questions will arise. You can give a little bit more information. And then, you know, eventually when they're of whatever maturity level that you and your child see fit, then you can explain it in more detail.
Yeah.
You know?
One thing I have found is that sometimes if you go to the zoo, you've got questions that you now need to find answers to.
Yep.
And wrestling, in my opinion,
is not the best.
Is not a good one.
Yeah.
Because then kids think, oh, wrestling involves this.
Yeah. Right.
Because there have been instances where the kids have seen sex.
Right.
And you can't protect them from that.
Right.
In every single circumstance. Yeah. You can protect them from it for the most part, seeing other humans do it.
Right.
But
animals you can't control.
No.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll be right up near, like, with the glass. And thankfully that hasn't happened to me specifically, but I have seen videos of, like, you know, funny animal videos. And then it's like a parent.
It's like, oh my God.
Their kid being like, oh my good Lord, they are doing that 5 feet away from my child.
Yeah.
And it's obvious that they're not playing, that's something that the kid has never seen before, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, because the kids are like, oh my God, what's happening?
Yeah, like, what are they doing? Why is he doing that to her? What is going on?
Yeah.
It's like, let's figure that out.
I think it's also important to have these uncomfortable conversations with your partner.
Yeah.
Whoever you're parenting with. so that you're on the same page, for one, and for two, so you don't get blindsided with these instances. Like,
Yeah.
okay, in the event of this, what do you think that we should say? And maybe it's not right. Maybe you take a while to figure it out, you know. Maybe you both look at each other and you're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I think parenting is all about that.
Oh, yeah.
There's been times that Michael and I have sat on the couch and we're like, what do we do? Like, I don't think any one parent just has it all figured out.
No.
You know, I don't know how many times I've gone to Michael and I'm like, I literally don't know what to do about this situation.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know either.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then we have to figure it out.
Whatever you want to say. I'm like, Thomas. He's like, you always come up with better ideas. I'm like, fuck off.
You're like, yes, but sometimes I don't want to be the one that always has to come up with the solution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard. And I'm not trying to say that, like, obviously, oh, I have it, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Because I don't. Sometimes even I'm uncomfortable with the answers that I'm giving.
Right.
But I also know that, like, I don't want to say storks. I don't want to say the birds and the bees, you know, because, like, that, I mean, it's just not true. And then what? When I do decide to have the conversation, then they're just blindsided.
Right.
With this wildly different answer.
Yeah.
Because I know I was.
Right.
My mom, you know, she shouldn't ever say, like, the stork thing. I think she just kind of avoided the conversation until it came up in, like, 5th grade.
Yeah.
Or whatever when I was at school. And then it was like, oh.
Yeah. I don't think I ever remember having the conversation with my mom. I think the only conversation we had was just like, wait till marriage. Don't have sex.
Yeah.
And that was like the bulk of the conversations that we had. I'm pretty sure I just figured it out through like kids at school and like TV and movies and stuff.
And see, that's what I kind of want to avoid.
Yeah, same.
Because I'd rather make sure that whatever information they're getting is accurate and complete enough for their age. You know, and that is hard to do because if you're somebody who doesn't have kids yet, I'm telling you, those questions come way earlier than you think they're going to.
Yeah.
You will be blindsided by how quickly they start discovering that, oh, I have a vulva or I have a penis. And like, I mean, little TMI, every time I change Ellie's diaper, she goes tap, 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 tap on it.
Quincy just calls it her poop.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, nope, no poop. And she goes, a poop? And I'm like, no.
Ellie just calls the whole thing her butt. Just all of it is her butt. She'll be like, my butt.
Well, that's what Maverick tried to call it, was just a butt. Yep.
I'll be like, well, this is your butt.
Right.
That is not. And she's just like, a butt.
Yep.
And she gets tap, tap, tap because like we'll put cream on her and you know,
right.
tap, 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 tap. Because I don't like the rub. I just tap, 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 tap.
Right.
Tap, tap, tap. And so now she goes, a tap, tap, tap.
That's cute. We've also been trying to teach Maverick about his personal bubble. So we have him put his arms straight out and then swing him around, and everything inside of there is his personal bubble, and to not enter anybody else's personal bubble unless they give you permission. And, you know, if somebody's uncomfortable or somebody's saying no, then that means no and stop. And that's a very hard concept for a 3-year-old who just wants to go. But I figure if I start being repetitive about that now, that hopefully it'll catch on as he gets older, and I can explain more why you don't touch somebody without their wanting as he gets older. But for now, it's just like when somebody says stop, or like when your sister's crying, when your sister's screaming, like leave her alone, back up, give her space. And he's starting to figure that out. He understands how he wants his space more than he understands giving somebody their space. So because he'll say like, got my space, need space. And I'm like, that's good that you're, you know, voicing that. But then he'll do the same thing to his sister, and I'm like, your sister needs space. No, she doesn't. Yep.
Damon kind of does something similar. He'll be like, don't touch me right now. But then Anna will be like, don't touch me right now. And then he'll be like, touch, 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 touch. Yep. And we say like hey, she's told you now she does not want you touching or being near her body. We're respecting her body. Yeah. And so we do that. Like, we want her to respect your body, you know, and so we very much are like the respect whomever's, whatever this issue is, their body. We don't touch someone without them saying it's okay. Right. Even if whatever that touch is a loving touch, like a hug or a kiss. Yeah. You know, be like, hey, we don't touch their body unless they say so. Yep. She doesn't want to kiss right now. She doesn't want to hug right now. Yep. And we are very open about that. Thankfully, that has not ever been a problem with grandparents.
No.
But I know that there are other people who have had that problem.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, I mean, the only grandparent in my kids' lives is my mom. And that was something I was very forward with her about from the get-go, and she has no issues with that.
Right.
I, however, was molested as a child, and so I think for my mom,
right,
it was a very easy concept for her to grab onto, to be like, yep, nope, they 100%. Right. They don't want to be touched, got it.
Yeah.
And she's very, very, very supportive of teaching that comfort level.
Yeah.
I think as part of her is like, let's not have a repeat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
But I know that like not every family is going to feel that way.
Yeah.
My kids really don't see many other grandparents. They see like your family.
Right.
Which to them is like, you know, aunt, uncle, whatever. But that's never been a problem with them either.
Yeah.
You also have the same rule though.
Yeah.
So it's not like something they're not familiar with.
And I always, if I find that somebody's pushing on that, because we do have some family members that don't quite understand that concept. And I always say, oh, if you don't want to give a hug, then you don't have to.
Yep, I do that too.
And I'll say like, you just say goodbye. Usually if they don't want to like hug, high five, knuckles, whatever, if we go through those steps, they're saying all no. I say, okay, then just wave goodbye. You know, because I want them to know that like you still need to be polite, but you don't have to give your body to be polite. Yeah. You can use your words and say goodbye.
Exactly.
And that seems to work pretty well.
Okay, so I have a question.
Okay.
For what maybe like if this scenario were to come up to like tomorrow, how would you respond? Let's say that Maverick is like with some other kids his age or whatever, and somebody asks him about his thing, or they start talking about their thing or whatever, and they use different words or different concepts, or they have different rules regarding theirs. What as a parent would be your response? Like, especially if it was something that like the kids started talking about it and like, let's say they whip out their penis or whatever. What would your response be to Maverick when they're like, hey, this happened?
I'd
whoops. Elbowed the wall there.
If I didn't witness it, I would probably talk to him and basically say, you know, like, we don't show each other our parts. Yes, he has the same parts if it was a boy to a boy. But that's not okay to share. If that happens again, you need to come get mom and tell him we don't do that and just come get mom. And then probably talk to those parents and just say this is what's happening kind of a thing.
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing. Kind of just like intervening if you're able to in the moment, but then if you can't, kind of like retroactively being like, well, we shouldn't do that and that wasn't appropriate. Yeah. It's kind of my thought process on that. I haven't experienced that.
Yeah.
Other than between my own children.
Right.
But I haven't experienced it with other kids yet at all, which, thank God.
Yeah, I feel like it's so touchy too, because, you know, you don't want to come at somebody else's like kid that they're doing something wrong, because all kids are curious, you know, and I think it's bound to happen at some point in their lives. We can't be with our kids every single second of every single day. As much as we want to. Yeah. Or don't want to.
I got the question because like I said, when I was working in the daycare, I remember a preschool boy pulled his out in front of the large group of other children.
Yeah.
And a lot of the girls were like, what's that? Because they'd never seen one before. Right. Never been explained. And this kid used, I think he used anatomical, whatever.
Okay.
And he was just like boasting about his thing and like talking about it. And all the girls were like, what?
Oh, God.
And it wasn't my group. So I wasn't the one that ended up having to deal with that.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of kids that then were in my group who witnessed it, who then were talking about it for the rest of the day. And then we had to like write up an incident report for every single one of those children and have talks with every single parent at pickup. That was fun. Thankfully, I was not a lead teacher at the time, so I wasn't the one that had to have those conversations. I did overhear a couple of them.
Yeah.
But I wasn't a lead teacher at the time, so I didn't need to do that.
Yeah. It's hard, too, because at Maverick and Damon's ages, if you make too big a deal of it, then they are going to do it more.
Yep.
If you don't do enough of a deal of it, then they are going to do it more.
Yep.
You have to find that sweet spot of like, that's not okay. You're not in trouble right now, but we just don't do that again, kind of a thing. Which is not easy.
No.
Especially when it's another kid involved, because you don't know necessarily that kid, how they are going to respond to the situation.
Yeah.
And I feel like our kids, especially Damon and Maverick, are very in a influential age. So it's kind of like when we go to gymnastics. One kid starts goofing off, they all start goofing off.
They all start goofing off.
If one kid pulls out his penis, they might all pull out their, you know what I mean? Like, because they just see another kid doing it, and I swear, I hope that never happens. But yeah.
It almost happened yesterday.
Oh God.
Damon had gymnastics yesterday. He was normally it's like Damon, Maverick, and like 3 girls.
Yeah, and Maverick wasn't there because we were busy.
Maverick wasn't there and one of the girls wasn't there.
Oh, okay.
So it was just Damon and 2 little girls.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point he was like, I gotta go potty, told the teacher that, starts running off the thing and starts like about to pull his pants down.
Oh no.
I was like, what are you doing? Thankfully it was just me, so like I could very quickly just get up and go deal with him.
Yeah.
Thomas was there, or my mom was at home with the kids.
Yeah.
The other 2. And so I followed him and I was like, don't pull your pants down. Because he literally just almost pulled his pants down in front of everybody.
Yep.
And was going to run. It's like, 1, you are going to get to the bathroom a hell of a lot slower with your pants around your ankles.
Yes.
2, please don't do that
in front of everybody. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. That almost happened.
Oh.
And it was almost mine.
It's hard. It's hard.
So is. He doesn't understand.
And like I said, you don't want them to think like those parts are dirty.
Yeah.
Like those parts are bad. Like nobody can see those. Yes. But it's not because those parts are bad. It's just because they're only for you, only for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which then there's also like the, if your kids share bath time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
When does that stop?
Yeah. Thankfully, that naturally stopped for us because Maverick now prefers showers.
See, all of my kids still prefer baths.
Ellie
doesn't like any
take a
of them.
bath with Quincy, but he prefers a shower because when he takes a bath, he wants to swim in the tub and there's not enough room, and so he gets mad.
Fair. See,
but,
Anna and Damon still prefer to bathe together if they can.
Yeah.
We're trying to move Anna away from it because she is 6 and she's just kind of getting up there in the age where she's going to start getting closer to puberty. Obviously, she's nowhere near puberty yet.
Right. Well, I was 9.
I was going to say, like,
that's 3 years away.
That's not that long.
Scary. I was just thinking about that the other night because that's a whole nother topic that maybe we should touch on, is like periods. I think we have a little bit. But I just started my period.
Just puberty in general. We should have a whole
well,
thing
yeah,
on
that too. And I was laying in bed and I was just having like some cramps, and I was going to sleep with Quincy, and I was laying there just cramping, and then I kind of like looked down at Quincy and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to talk to her about this one day.
Yeah.
She's gonna have to go through this one day.
I mean, the first time Anna ever saw, because she's seen me take a tampon out and stuff. Tampon? Why did I say it like that? That's not how I say that.
Tampon.
Tampon. I don't ever say it like that. The fuck? Okay. She has seen that and she had asked. And so she understands that, well, every month, mommy can make a baby.
Right.
If mommy doesn't make a baby,
right,
mommy bleeds.
Right.
And then it starts over.
Right.
So she understands at least that concept.
Yeah.
She's asked me, does it hurt? And I was like, well, the bleeding part, no.
Right.
But like sometimes I get crampy.
Maverick busted in one time when I was mid inserting a tampon. And he was like, what are you doing, mama? And I said, I'm just taking care of mommy right now. I'm just going to the bathroom. He was like, I think 2 when this happened. So I was like, I'm not even gonna even broach this right now. I'm just going to push this off and lock the door next time. Yep. And he was like, you put that thing in your butt? And I said, no. I said, no, I didn't. Let's just not worry about it right now. It's just for mommies to worry about, and I can talk to you about it later. And he goes, okay. And then he got one out of the counter probably like a week after that happened. And he was like, this go in my butt. And I was like, oh my God. And Michael's like, did you let him see you put a tampon? And I said, I didn't let him do anything. Like, he busted into the bathroom and I was already mid-insertion. There was nothing I could do. Yeah. And he was like, oh my God. Yeah. I said, yeah.
Anna has seen me put one in before, and she's like, where did it go?
Disappeared into the ether.
And that was when I had to explain to
Yeah.
her that there's an inside.
Right. Yeah.
That's when she learned that there's an inside.
Right.
But I'm also super open with her about
Right.
a lot of that stuff. Like, she has seen the birth video for Ellie,
Mm-hmm.
and so she knows that babies come out of there, so there has to be
Right.
an inside.
Yeah. Maverick's seen his birth video and his sister's birth video, and he just doesn't quite comprehend. He doesn't come full circle as to what's happening.
I feel like in his, because I've seen both of them.
Mm-hmm. His is much more graphic.
I was going to say his, you can see where he
is coming
I
out
said
of.
she. You'll understand what my
Yes.
train of thought is in a second.
Okay.
It's a way easier to understand where he is coming out of than looking at Quincy's video.
Yes.
Because in Quincy's,
You barely can even see me.
I was going to
It's so
say,
dark.
you can't even really see you.
Yeah.
And you don't even really see her emerging. She's just like, you're like, I'm slipping. And then there she is.
She's not there, and then she's there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
There really isn't.
Whereas Maverick, you literally watch him come out.
Yep. Oh, I remember.
Yep. 4K right in your face.
With no warning.
Yes. That's how I like to do it.
Duh. And
But
Anna's
yeah,
seen her own.
he doesn't really.
I think at this age, it doesn't compute yet.
Yeah.
But
he kind of
then-
just said, "Did you get owie, mama?" And I said, "Well, it was kind of an owie, but
Mhm.
then you were
Yeah.
here."
And then there's also that, like, how much do you explain to your sons? Because a lot, like, I feel like it's easier to explain all of that stuff to your daughters.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can just write off, like, oh, my son doesn't need to know that because it's not going to be his body. But it's going to
Potentially be his
partner's and, like,
body.
he should understand, at least on a very basic level,
Yeah.
what that is so that he can have compassion.
Right.
It's hard. And we'll get into that in whatever episode
Yeah.
we talk about puberty.
Yeah.
We already have pretty much all of the episodes for the rest of this season, which will be ending soon,
Yes.
planned out. So you'll have to wait for that for next season, but maybe we can bring that up
Next season.
like early or in the next season. We
Mhm.
can talk about that.
Yeah.
We don't have an official end date for this season yet. I figure I can mention this since we're
Mhm.
talking about it.
Since we're here.
We're still figuring that out, but we'll let you know when it is the last episode and when we're approaching it.
Yes.
We'll keep you posted on all that. Don't worry.
We have a small surprise for you for next season.
Yes, we do. You'll have to wait and see.
No hints.
No hints.
Just a small surprise. That's your only hint.
Yep, small surprise. Yep. And so I think that kind of concludes this episode.
Yeah.
I'll have this book linked. You can get it on Amazon. I forget how much it is.
It's
But
under $20. I think
Yeah.
it's like 11 or 12 or something like that.
But yeah, it's a really good book. Like I said, it is kind of graphic in the sense of, like, you get the actual words and the names
Right.
for it.
It's not really a book that you're just going to like
Pick up one day and
breeze
read.
through.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a
Conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Although apparently some kids don't understand that. Like my daughter to my mom, I mean, like, read this one. Okay.
Yeah. Maverick likes to tell me, I like this book.
Mhm.
I'm like, good.
And Alexa's book too.
It's a good thing.
And I read it to Damon on occasion, and I like that it opens the conversation in an age appropriate way.
Yeah,
And so I
it does.
highly recommend it. If I can find any of the other ones that are similar, I will link those as well in the description.
Yeah.
Very important conversation to be having with your kids
Very.
at every age.
Yes. Just make it age appropriate and then it's fine.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, so we will see you next week with a topic that I don't know off the top of my head because I'm too tired.
I don't know either.
Hopefully next week I am not quite as tired,
Same.
and that we're handling things better.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe.